Hello everybody, back with another Out in the Park 22 video today. In this one I'm going to talk about different teams that you may want to consider in your franchise mode. I did a live video with my brother where I talked through a couple teams that I was considering, and since then a few people have asked me, I want to play the game this way, what team do you recommend I use? Or I've never played before, what team do you recommend I use? So I wanted to make a video where I covered some of those things and teams that, depending on how you want to play the game or what type of kind of experience you want playing, teams that might fit different types of games that you're considering. And by that I mean, like, do you want to win now? I worded that awkwardly, so I mean, like, do you want to win now? Do you want to rebuild? Do you want a small market team, etc.? I'm going to walk through some different options. Definitely not an exhaustive list. Like, just because I mentioned one win now team doesn't mean that there aren't other win now teams that are good to consider. So to start, maybe if you're new to the game and you just want to get used to it, the Dodgers, I think, are your team. You could also probably do the Yankees, but the Dodgers have the biggest budget. They have the biggest payroll. They still have tons of money to spend, especially next year, despite having a team full of superstars. And you've got Mookie Betts, you've got Bellinger. I mean, what more do you need? But they yet still have more stars on their team. And then pitching side, Buehler, Kershaw, Bauer, Urias, Price, and then Tony Gonsolin, Dustin May. This team is just stacked. They're the favorites. In the preseason predictions, they are predicted to win 106 games here. I have it on opening day. So 106 games. The farm system isn't amazing. It's only 22nd, but what does it matter when you can spend your way out of any problem, basically? So if you're new to the game, or you just want to come out and just spend a bunch of money and have a team where you can sign a bunch of contracts, the Dodgers are a fun team to pick. And they've got some interesting decisions coming up on Kershaw, Seager, guys like that. Bellinger's got 2 years of arbitration left. So those are kind of some fun things you can think through. If you want to pick a team that's in win now, but maybe not as it doesn't have as forgiving of a budget as the Dodgers, I think go to another NL West team. The Padres are a really fun team. They've got Fernando Tatis, who's one of the best young players in the game. Manny Machado's a fun player. They've got some other fun hitters. Their pitching staff, Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, and they've got young pitchers that are coming up as well. If you look at their farm system, they've got the #1 farm system according Out of the Park. Mackenzie Gore, C.J. Abrams, Kim, Campusano, Weathers, etc. I mean, they've got 5 top 50 prospects. So the one thing that might be kind of challenging for them is if we go to their finances, you don't have any additional money to spend right now. If you go to the accounting, you can see the budget's going to jump by like $24 million next year, but you might not have you might not be able to add much to this team. So that's one thing that's kind of challenging, probably a little challenging about the Padres. I haven't played it out to see how it goes, but they are definitely a team that is built to win right now, and if you make the right decisions, they could stay good for a really long time with the farm system they have. One team that I covered in my video about teams I was considering is the Philadelphia Phillies. The reason I find the Phillies interesting is because they kind of are acting like they should be winning now, right? But I don't really know that they're gonna. So in the preseason predictions, they are predicted to win 84 games, which is kinder than some of the real-life projection systems, which I think have the Phillies around 81 games for this year. But they have a huge payroll, so that can be fun. I've never really played with a team with a huge payroll. And they have a couple superstars, Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto. They have some other interesting players like Alec Boehm, Rhys Hoskins. And pitching side of things, Aaron Nola is awesome. Wheeler's good. He's on a big contract, though. And also, their farm system isn't great. 28th. You've only got 2 top 100 prospects. And their team's kind of old. Like, Wheeler's 30. Realmuto's 30. You got a little time with them. McCutchen's on a contract, and he's 34, and he's signed up, for 2 more years in the team option. Segura, same thing, 31. Gregorius, 31. So with that bad of a farm system and the age of their players and their contracts, I think they're in a really interesting spot considering, Harper's 28. His prime's only going to last so long. While he'll be an effective player for a while, you want to maximize Bryce Harper before he gets to his kind of early to mid-30s. And I don't know that they're really doing that. And so I think that's why they're an interesting team. But if you, to the opposite end of the spectrum, if you want to do a small market team, I mean, the classic choice is the Tampa Rays. Let's go to their finances here. 27th biggest budget, and that's kind of how the Rays have always been. Now, if you play with the Rays and you continue to win, the owner will probably increase the budget and it will become easier. But the Rays are a team in real life that have stayed small market, one of the smallest budgets and payrolls, and they always find a way to be competitive. And they've got some fun players: Austin Meadows, Randy Arozarena. On the pitching side of things, they traded Snell, but Glass now is here. Archer's back, which is fun, even though he's not as good as he used to be. But, they've got some fun arms in their bullpen like Nick Anderson, Pete Fairbanks. And on the player development side of things, they've got the third best system according out of the park. And Wander Franco, who is like the best prospect, and this is just OSA because I'm not assigned to a team with a scout, pretty much one of the best prospects ever in the history of baseball in real life. And so it'll be fun to see him and have him come up and try to work with this small payroll and keep them competitive. And you are predicted for, if you take over the Rays, 88 wins. So a small market team that's kind of right on that fringe of that bubble of a wild card team. Maybe if things bounce right for you and bounce badly for the rest of the division, you can win the division. But a pretty fun team to take over, a smaller market team that's a challenge, but you're not rebuilding, right? You're not spending 2 to 3 years just stripping everything down to the studs and starting from scratch. So that's an interesting team. Now, if you do want a teardown team, there are a few you could use. The Pirates are definitely one. I think the Rockies would be more fun in some ways just because they have some interesting pieces that you can trade away and start your rebuild with, like Trevor Story, Charlie Blackmon. These are guys you might be able to get value for. Certainly Herman Marquez, John Gray are guys you could trade away. And on the player development side, they've got the 23rd best farm system. And let's see, I think Story is a free agent after this year. Yeah, Story is your marquee player, and he's a free agent. They traded Arenado. Gray's on the last year of his deal. So, and preseason prediction-wise, let's see what out of the park has the Rockies for. Yeah, 63 wins. I think they'd be a fun team to just kind of trade everybody away. You've got some pieces you can bring in assets for, and you're starting with a pretty weak farm system. So I think the Rockies are an interesting team if you just want to do a complete teardown. Now, if you want to do more of a rebuild that's already in progress, I think my Baltimore Orioles are fun for that. But another team that would be fun for that are the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners, let's go to their homepage here. No, that's not where I want. I want to go to the finances. There we go. So they've got a 21st biggest budget. So they're not like a small market, but they're in the bottom half. They've got a little bit of money to spend. Player development-wise, they've got the second best farm system. You've got some stars coming. I mean, they have 4 prospects in the top 23. And Emerson Hancock is a stud pitcher. Jared Kelenic is a guy who's almost major league ready. If he's not, according to the game, he'll be there soon. Julio Rodriguez is a super fun prospect who, once he gets ready, will probably be an impact player for you. The game, or OSA rates him a little lower than I thought maybe he would be, but a 50 for now if he develops won't be too bad. But second best farm system, and they've got some fun players on their roster. Taylor Trammell is a young player, one of their better prospects. Kyle Lewis won Rookie of the Year last year. Pitching side of things, a little older with guys like Paxton and Gonzalez, but Sheffield, guys like that coming up. Let's see what Out of the Park says for the Mariners. For the Mariners, they say 74 wins. So, yeah, they're kind of, I think the Mariners, it could always be that their rebuild doesn't work out and they never take that next step forward. But I think if things go right for the Mariners and kind of the way they've shaped their roster over the last several years, I think they could be a really good team in a couple of years. And you're not having to tear everything down. You're kind of coming in as they're on the rise, but they're still towards the bottom, if that makes sense. So for that reason, I think they're a fun team. If you want to do a kind of a rebuildish type franchise, but not a total teardown like the Rockies would be. So those are just some suggestions of teams that I would recommend if you're looking for different types of games. Certainly every team fits some profile, right? So there's a reason to pick every team here. And I didn't go over all those. I'm sure people will follow up with comments about teams that they're using and why they like them, which would be interesting to hear about too. But those are just some suggestions that I have. I will see you guys in the next video.